I know we need to move on, but one more question to Kevin. We've been seeing there are a lot of airlines setting up tech incubators and that kind of thing. I know you've done a fair bit of sort of Dragon's Den style moderating recently and that kind of stuff. Do you think these sort of tech incubators are the right way to go for airlines to bring on new technology?
I mean, just to comment on the last one. I mean, not that it'd be terrible to suggest that Virgin Airlines only ever does things for publicity, but they were the airline that really kind of threw themselves into the Google Glass thing, where they had that concierge service at Heathrow, and they got loads of publicity, and then it went pretty quickly because they obviously realised that it was either pointless or nobody was using it. But this feeds into the answer about incubators. So what that illustrated is that airlines, going back to the previous point, is that airlines are trying to think in a slightly more tech world kind of way. So, for example, there was a representative from KLM, that airline again, at the Aviation Festival, who was saying, you know, they try half a dozen things every couple of months, and often the management team wouldn't even know about it because they're just trying to drip things in to the kind of, whether it's communications, whether it's things that they're doing online, and they'll be able to, you know, using that kind of test and learn principle that has been championed by the likes of Expedia and Booking.com, for example. Let's just see if something works, and if it doesn't, we can just quickly remove it because we've got such a huge passenger base, no one will really understand anyway. So, and then they can get some great learnings from it. But to the point about incubators, this is where it's got really interesting, because one, I think there is a small element of let's do an incubator because it's cool, you know, but I think what Lufthansa, yeah, it is a trend in itself. You're absolutely right. Lufthansa has done this. JetBlue has done this. BA has done this with its Hangar 51 project. I think there is a recognition in the industry that perhaps they are not the smartest people within an airline. We might not actually be the smartest people to come up with stuff. So let's work with some external organizations. We can give them a little bit of funding. We can bring them in under the hood, let them play around with our technology, our APIs, our platforms, etc., etc. And they may be able to come up with something that we and all our brainiacs were unable to come up with previously. So that's where I think the incubator trend has come in, is that yes, it's great for publicity and you can support some startups and you may fund the next Uber, for example, but more likely you're just going to come up and start working with some people that have a really, really bright idea. So that's the main motivation behind incubators, for sure.
I think they're good. The only problem I've seen with some of the incubators is I think if you're not good at finding or spotting trends in technology, having people do a startup on it isn't necessarily going to help. Picking that right startup is going to be very difficult, and working out where they're doing it right is also going to be hard. If you're completely in the dark about what something should do or how it works, it's just as easy to get fooled by someone who started it 6 months ago as it is to get fooled by a vendor who's been doing it for 20 years. It's, you know, we've seen a lot of airlines try and replace existing services with an incubator on the assumption that it won't cost them very much because they own part of it. It works, they'll make loads of money out of it, but it doesn't, you know, like it actually kills entrepreneurship, because you know, there's vendors out there who've been doing it for years, and actually you just need to go and see them to do it because they've got all the learning and they're not trying to do it by trial and error. You know, I think it's probably been said by a lot of people. It's about thinking clearly about what you want to innovate on and how you're going to measure it and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, agree.
I think
it's also about it's also almost about, well, how do we get our innovation culture? It's too much hard work to achieve this in-house. Let's outsource it and get it outside. And there is actually, it can be this way. And there is actually some very interesting research out there where they, made by many on a regular basis, does the research about those incubator innovation hubs and so on, and what the successes are. And it's still early days, but there are some indications about this. You need at some stage to start thinking about bringing it together again, and you still need to get your house in order and get the involvement and buy-in, because otherwise you will not succeed.